Welcome, everyone. I'm Henry DeVries from Indie Books International. Welcome to the Marketing with a Book podcast. So another great speaker today, our own chairman, Mark LeBlanc from Indie Books International. As we like to start our podcast, we like to do our author roll call from Indie Books. So if everyone, you should start with being muted. Then as I call on you, unmute yourself. We'd love to hear the name of your book and your name. So that's how it works. And I'll call people and let me make a note here so I don't get confused. Here we go. We're going to start with Bob and then Brad. So whenever you're ready.
You starting with me, Henry?
Please, Kansas City, you're on the air.
Absolutely. Hello, Kansas City. Yeah, Bob Dusine. I wrote a book with through Henry and Mark 2.5 years ago. It came out, Creating the High Performance Workplace. The main author, Sue Bingham, was kind enough to let me have my name on the cover also as a co-author, and looking forward to starting my next one. So glad to be able to be here today.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Let's go with Brad, and Christine is a visitor, but I'd like to hear from her.
Thank you very much, Henry. Hi, y'all. It's Brad Pierce, and the book I'm writing right now is called Sustainability Mind Shift. Thank you.
Thanks. Christine, are you an author or an aspiring author?
I am an aspiring author via Mark, and so I'm here to listen in. Thank you, Henry.
Glad to have you. How about Craig Hewlett and then David Goldman?
Thank you for asking, Henry. I'm an aspiring author, and I'm here to learn more from the famous Mark LeBlanc.
Craig, you've forgotten more than most people will ever know about direct marketing. So I'd like to see that book one day. Okay, David Goldman.
Hi, Henry. Hi, I'm David Goldman, and I wrote the book, The Road to Happiness, How to Get What You Really Want.
Thanks, David. How about Jackie and then Kim Nagel?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Klustabor. I published the book, My Earthquake Preparedness Guide.
Thanks, Jackie. And then Kim and Louisa, please.
I'm Kim Nagel, and I am just launching the Damn Plan, How to Find Freedom, Love, and Money in Your Business.
Hey, glad you're here. And
hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Just published, Mastering Cultural Differences, Strategies for Leading a Global Workforce.
Great, thank you. How about Mark, Mary, and then Patrick?
My next book is titled, I'm Mark LeBlanc from Minneapolis. My next book is When You Are the Business.
And of course, you'll be speaking more. So now Mary and Patrick.
Yes.
Then Terry.
Hello, I'm Mary Schmid. My book is Make or Break Conversations. What smart financial professionals need to do to land new clients and keep the ones they have.
Okay. Patrick, Perry, and then Diane.
Hi, everybody. My name is Patrick McGowan, and my book.
We're having an audio problem. There you go. There it is again. Either that or I'm having a stroke.
I got it.
Okay.
Take two.
Take two.
My name is Patrick McGowan, and I am the author of the soon-to-be-released book, Fearless Virtual Presence.
Welcome. And
my name is Diane Ployce.
Yeah.
My book in process is Questions to Ask Before You Buy a Franchise.
Hey. Thank you. Roger, you're a guest. Are you an aspiring author or an author?
Yeah. Hi, Henry. I am an author, wrote my first book, hey, Mark, wrote my first book 28 years ago. So I've written a few books since then. I just had a new one come out called Think to Win, Power of Possibility Thinking. So had a little experience in this area, but still have a lot to learn.
Hey, well, how about Stuart and then Teresa? And go Irish, by the way. If Roger wanted to talk, but if not, he can pass the talking stick there to Chris Hodges.
No, I thought I was all done. Was there something more you wanted?
Oh, no, I was just said go Irish. I see
Oh,
that
go
the
Irish.
football
Oh, yeah, yeah.
behind
Just,
you is-
I was wondering.
Today's
Yeah.
kind of a day. Okay,
Well-
now I got to ask, is that a Jack Kramer racket there behind you?
Well, I'll tell you this story very quickly because I think you'll appreciate it. I'm a huge tennis fan. I grew up playing tennis, and my hero was a guy named Rod Laver. And I got to meet Rod Laver just by happenstance, and he was such a genuine, wonderful, authentic guy. And I didn't even ask him. He sent me that racket. And that's one of the rackets that he played, was actually a Dunlap. And he autographed it and sent it to me, which I thought was so amazingly special.
Nice. Okay, Chris, Teresa, and Stuart.
My name is Chris Hodges. I'm the author of Placing Stones, Doing and Having What Mattered Most, but my upcoming book is called Emotionally Intelligent Automation.
Nice. Stuart and Teresa? Stuart might be passing the talking stick. Teresa?
Wonderful. I'm Dr. Teresa Ashby, and I'm the author of Better Implementation Now: How Great Strategies Fail and How to Fix Them.
Right. Well, thank you. How about Mason? And then we're going to get the show on the road. Mason Harris, the chutzpah guy, you're on if you want to unmute and come on.
Oh, my apologies. I'm sorry for being late. My name is Mason Harris. I'm the author of The Chutzpah Advantage. Go bigger, be bolder, do better. It's due out next month. I thank you, Indie Books and team, for making this happen.
Well, thanks, everybody. Great crowd here today. And that's to hear Mark LeBlanc, the author of Growing Your Business and Never Be the Same. Growing Your Business is an underground bestseller, 80,000 copies in print. Next book, as he mentioned, is When You Are the Business. We've also co-authored some books together, like Build Your Consulting Practice and Defining You. So Mark likes to say we're twin brothers from different mothers, and I agree. We launched Indie Books 7 years ago. It'll be 7 years, April 1st, with the idea of two best-selling authors coming together to create a publishing company that was designed for authors. Instead of the dirty little secret of publishing, to take advantage of authors. We think the authors are the heroes, and we want to set them up for success. So without further ado, from Minneapolis, Minnesota, please welcome Mark LeBlanc.
Hey, thank you, Henry. So good to be here. I think in the hot seat with you as the interviewer.
So, Mark, what's the secret of you selling a case of growing your business every week for the last, I believe, 12 years? You've averaged a case sale every week for 12 years. What's the secret?
The secret is what is the singular outcome that that all of your work is marshaled around. So it was 20 years ago, 24 years ago to be exact, when I woke up one day and I was speaking on a lot of different things. And I thought, if I could do growing your business 50 times a year at my then fee, I'd be happier than a pig in mud. And I threw everything else away and marshaled all of my marketing muscle and might behind a singular outcome, growing your business. Several years later, I published my first book, Growing Your Business. And thank you for your kind words. It did become an underground bestseller, a little over 80,000 copies and about 800 or so orders of 50 copies or more. And the secret is I've been speaking 50 times a year, doing presentations titled Growing Your Business. I think one of the challenges that people have is they write a book on something and then a year later they're either bored with it or they're speaking on a different topic. And so I've gone the distance with Growing Your Business. And then behind the scenes, I put together an accidentally brilliant quantity pricing plan. And that quantity pricing plan is 25% off per book on an order of 25 or more, 50% off on an order of 50 or more. And that has led to over 800 orders of 50 copies or more.
How did your father inspire you with your high school graduation gift?
Well, I graduated in 1979, and prior to my graduation, I'm going to say approximately a year, a priest in northern Minnesota gave a copy of a little book titled The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. He said, Ralph, you're a pretty good salesperson. I think you would like this little book. And my dad liked it so much that he ordered a carton of them, and he started giving them out to friends and prospects and customers. And he gave one to me, his son, at 18, as my high school graduation present. I wanted a car, and instead he gave me a little paperback book that at the time retailed for $2.99, which essentially, buying a carton, he got them for $1.50. That was my present. About a year later, he and I were on a road trip, and I came across a little book titled I'm Gonna Bury You by Gene Neal. And I told my dad, I said, you're not going to believe this story. You've got to read this. My dad read it, liked it so much, he bought a carton of them and started giving them to people. In 1999, fast forward 18 or 19 years, I thought, what if I published a book that what the format and everything about it was such that somebody such as my dad might read it and think highly enough of it and thought, I want to order a carton of these, or I want to order them and give them away.
Mark, I happen to know, though, you made a $500,000 mistake with that book. Do you care to share the mistake?
Did I not send you the note to say, don't ask me that question?
It's like Barbara Walters. I'm going to ask you whatever I want to ask you.
I might start to cry. No, the truth is I made conservatively a $500,000 mistake with that first little book. And for those of you that do not have it, it's a little 4x7 inch mass market paperback size book. And I had every intention of coming out. I mean, I think it's 77 pages. And I had every intention of following it up with an execution or implementation journal or manual, maybe spiral bound, maybe 8.5 by 11, sell it for $79. But then I blinked and 10 years went by, and I found myself separated and in a lengthy separation after a 19-year marriage. I got swept up in the leadership machine of the National Speakers Association. I came back, went on a short 500-mile walk across Spain, but it was as if I blinked and 10 years went by and I never produced the implementation manual. And I conservatively estimate that I would have moved 5,000 plus copies of an implementation guide or manual at $97 a piece or $79 a piece. That's $500,000 that would have fallen right to my bottom line.
The positioning triangle, the trifecta with that book, that's something new that you're teaching right now. Give us the positioning triangle with your book and your work.
Well, and it's taken me a while to develop, and it is something that I'm putting a pin light on more in the last 12 months, if not even the last 90 days or so, because everybody is so incredibly challenged by how to position themselves and their work in the marketplace. And so I created this concept of a positioning triangle. And if you can picture a triangle, at the top of the outcome, which is growing your business. I would encourage people, what is the singular outcome that you and your work aim for in the marketplace? So if I think about my triangle, growing your business is the outcome that I've been a champion of now for 20 some years. And then when I think about the two specific results of my work, it deals with more focus and more money. Again, took me a while to understand that, but when I think of the two problems that independent and practice professionals face in the marketplace is, well, one, they just go off on tangents disguised as opportunities every single day. And so how to bring them back to center and create an extreme degree of focus. And then secondly, how to put more money in their pocket as a business owner. And not more money just for money's sake or greed's sake, but how do you develop consistent and sustainable and predictable owner's compensation for yourself? So that's my positioning triangle. And I want each and every single independent professional, even with multiple books, to find the intersection of a single outcome and two specific results. That begins the process of creating a messaging platform for your business.
Mark helped me understand that mine is marketing with a book. That's the outcome. And at Indie Books, we help people have more impact, more influence. So what is yours? So think about that. Mark, on that trifecta word, growing your business is a trifecta title. Could you explain what a trifecta title is and how this qualifies as a trifecta title?
Well, you and I have been somewhat evangelists around focus in the marketplace, and the trifecta is if or when book title, presentation title, and domain name are the same. So I've given well over 1,000 presentations titled Growing Your Business. My first book titled Growing Your Business. My domain name, growingyourbusiness.com. And of course, my email address is Mark, M-A-R-K, at growingyourbusiness.com. And you'd be amazed at how many times people or organizations have reached out to me because someone in the organization or the association has said, hey, we need to bring in, maybe we need to bring in a business development guy or gal for our conference this year. We need to find somebody that can help our members grow their business or grow their practice. And then someone will say, hey, I know, let's get the guy who wrote the book Growing Your Business.
So Mark, I like to say that my books are my children. Like my children, I expect them to take care of me in my old age. And you're not supposed to play favorites with your children. But I have a favorite book. Now you're an uncle. I don't know if you're supposed to play favorites with nieces and nephews, but all your books, what is your favorite book and why?
You know, so much of what I've just shared in the last few minutes, I didn't know 20 years ago. I learned these things along the way. It was either some of the decisions I made were either accidentally brilliant or divinely guided, because I was not smart enough to really figure it out along the way. But, you know, I have 5 books now, and they all serve a different reason and a different purpose. I think I got, I'm going to say, lucky with my first book, because I really think of it as a warm-up book. It just struck a chord with readers. In fact, I just had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn. Last year, a business consultant in Minneapolis stumbled upon the book, and in the last 12 months, he's ordered 4 orders of 100 copies and given them out. And a woman that he gave a copy of Growing Your Business to just sent me an email on LinkedIn and said, Greg gave me a copy of your little book, and I love it. And so it's timeless, and it's done well. And I'm just as proud of that little book today as I was 20 years ago when it came out. I need to get my junior high photo off the back cover. But in terms of the 5 books, it would be my second book, which I think of as my signature book. And that book is titled Never Be the Same, about a third business, a third leadership, and a third personal transformation, inspired by my 500-mile walk across Spain.
It's always been my favorite business quest book, and I highly recommend you listen to it on audio. Get the audible copy of it. Mark reads it, which is an interesting decision. But if you're the past president of the National Speakers Association and you've given over 1,000 presentations, maybe you should read your book. Some other people, not so much, but that's something to weigh. Now, the book Finding You, I think that might be your most important book. What do you think about it?
I think it's the most immediately usable and impactful book. Because in there, and of course, you are one of the co-authors, you and Kathy McAfee, and it takes over where the positioning triangle leaves. You know, once you have that in place, then it takes a look at the attraction phase of the marketing and selling process in terms of what we refer to as your short game, your mid game, and your long game, i.e. Defining statement, defining paragraph, and defining story. And so even a quick read of Defining You and then going back and rolling up your sleeves and digging into it, it's got the tools, the templates, the examples of how to position yourself. And of course, the subtitle is How Smart Professionals Craft the Answers to Who Are You, What Do You Do, and How Can You Help Me? Which is, of course, where so many of us struggle with our messaging. But very quickly, somebody can craft a statement and a paragraph, and should they choose to, and you and I would both encourage them to embrace their own story, and then all of a sudden within days, you could elevate or amp up your LinkedIn profile. You can improve the homepage on your website. Even if you go to, for those of you that might be interested in seeing lighthouse guides or examples, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, and the homepage of my website, growingyourbusiness.com, you will see how I began to incorporate my defining paragraph and my defining story into those two very specific tools.
We do an author's retreat 3 times a year. So it's 2 days. It's myself and Devin, and we work with just a handful of authors. And we use the book, Defining You. As the adage goes, 'tis a gift to be simple. And to get speaking engagements and to get media coverage, you first have to be so clear and simple with your messaging that other people get it. Sometimes we have to untrain people, declutter the marketing gobbledygook that comes out of their mouths about their book, and just get right to the point. So thank you for the help with that. Now, for your overall work in business development, somebody wanted to read one book. First they should attend your Achievers Circle. We just had number 154 and number 155 is coming up. The best, it's a 3-day retreat. I've been to over 20 of them. I get something new every time. So you should attend the Achievers Circle. And then if they want the curriculum behind that, in writing exactly what to do, what book is that?
Well, that's the book, Build Your Consulting Practice. And whether you are a consultant, a coach, a speaker, a trainer, an agent, an advisor of any type, Build Your Consulting Practice is the bomb because it introduces you, not only introduces you, but takes you somewhat in depth into our curriculum and structure for 9 best practices around money, focus, and marketing.
I wish I knew the 9 best practices 20 years ago when I was running an advertising and PR agency. We doubled revenues. It's amazing to think what we could have done if we had your 9 best friends, the 9 best practices.
I refer to them as my 9 best friends, or the board of advisors that keep me on the straight and narrow.
Love it. So moving forward, you have a book plan. So you're not done. Tell me about some of the books in your future.
Well, you and I and Scott Love are doing Rainmaker Confidential. Next up, Devin and I are co-authoring a book. Interestingly enough, because I don't know if this wasn't really on purpose, but an enormous turning point for me was hearing Ken Blanchard a few years ago at our Indie Books Forum when he talked about why he co-authors so many books. And when asked, and a lot of people don't even remember this, but the 1 Minute Manager was co-authored with Spencer Johnson. And when asked why he did not have his own book, his comment was, well, I learned so much when I work with someone else. And Henry, that was like a whack alongside my head. And within 2 years, you and I had co-authored Build Your Consulting Practice and Defining You. It was like, it got me out of my own way. And so I expect to come out with a book a year for the next 10 years. Probably 2 of those will be my own, and 8 or 7 of them will be co-authored with strategic partners.
Thought leader is not one and done. A thought leader does a series of books. They don't just do one big thick book and are done. So we want to encourage everyone to consider your book plan. There's more books in you. You have more to say. And each book is a brand in itself that can open doors for you and create relationships. So
the power of the right people coming together, because Henry, long before And you don't even know this example or story, but I had a horrendous experience with another person, and we had a publishing contract and advance in hand. And I believe the advance was $20,000. So we were to split 10. We got the first half. The agent took their commission. So I got the first half of my advance. And that relationship, I mean, it exploded in the writing process. So if you're not with the right co-author and see eye to eye and on the same page, it can be a disaster. And I think that poisoned me on the publishing process for some time. I mean, I needed some time to sort of recover from that because I ended up having to cut the cord, return the advance, and it all worked out fine in the end. But boy, the right or perfect fit co-author, and boy, you can really make music together.
So I've co-authored many books, probably a dozen. And what I've learned along the way is somebody needs to own 51% of the book. I know I'm an egalitarian figure, one for all for one. It's not how to do business. Somebody's got to be the decider. And that's important. So before you get married, you really need to have a good courtship to know if you'll be compatible on that.
Henry, also just an end note to something you said, Seth Godin didn't stop after he wrote Purple Cow. I mean, that would have been silly. And so, I know that sometimes the first book out of the gate can be daunting and at times exhausting. But I would just encourage people to get in the publishing game and get in gear. If you don't have your first book done, let's get that done in the next 12 months. And for those of you that do, what's the next book? And it doesn't have to be so hard. If you surround yourself with the right book team and the right people.
If you're indie publishing, remember, you split the costs with the other authors. So it lowers your cost. But as we know, the real money is what happens as a result of the book. It's not the royalties you're splitting from Amazon. If you sell the books in the back of the room, you're going to keep that. If you get booked in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, or several of our authors started at $7,500, and with our help in their book, they're now at $15,000 speech. So just got a wonderful testimonial from one of our authors, how it opened doors, allowed him to charge more. He increased his revenue by 41% a year. And he was in the sweet spot of 100 to 400,000. So there's a lot of factors going on that make sense to co-author a book. Any other advice for authors who are already in the game, Mark?
Well, there are too many authors who are looking for the flavor of the month or the flavor of the year, or the what's the next hot or trending topic. And I think part of your publishing game is what's the dream, but what's the long game? I mean, I think the next 10 years are going to be amazing for authors and speakers who position themselves properly and want to speak and train and do retreats and coach and consult. I think the future looks incredibly bright. But there's a lot of strategic decisions that go on, or strategic thinking that leads to better decisions behind the curtain. My life's work is business development. That's never going to change. And that's why my next book, Growing Your Business When You Are the Business, is still, it's a follow-on book with the same or similar theme, even though it'll be a dramatically different book than my book 20 years ago, it's still in the same family of business development books.
Mark, could you go into more detail on Never Be the Same, how that book came to be and your strategy for that plan about the Camino journey, but also business lessons? Please share.
Well, when I went on my first 500-mile walk across Spain, it was never my intention to write a book about it. It was a very personal, private journey and experience. But when I came back and I picked up, where I left off in terms of speaking on business development, I ended up, of course, with a signature story or two about the Camino and my experience. And often when it was time for questions and answers, or even during the break, most of the Q&A and private questions were, I want to know more about the walk. And a friend of mine, Ross Bernstein, drove over to my office, called me, drove over to my office, and he said, Mark, I have to come and sit down with you because if I give you the idea over the phone, you're going to screw it up. And so he carved out the time to come to my office, sit in front of me and say, Mark, don't write another cheesy business book. And then he corrected himself. He said, please forgive me. I didn't mean to imply that your your first book was a cheesy business book. But he said, I know that you are working on your next book. He said, I want you to write the story version of Mark LeBlanc in your work. And I didn't understand what he meant. I said, I'm not sure I understand. What do you mean? He said, Mark, you're the only speaker I have ever heard in my career. I attended a one-day event with you, and I watched you speak all day long without looking at a note. People were writing down your strategies and your practices and your tips and your ideas, and they were writing furiously. But he said they were captivated by your stories. He goes, I looked around and it was almost as if they were mesmerized by your stories. Now, Henry, at that time, I really would not have thought of myself as a storyteller. I threw in a few stories here and there, but I didn't understand the power of story. He said, you need to write the story version of your life and work. And I said, what are you talking about? And he started peppering me with questions. How is it that someone, he goes, you've been in business since you were, I think, 20 or 22? I said, well, 21. He goes, how does that work? I said, well, I had a job once for about 6 months, and I found out at a very early age that I was unemployable. He goes, I said, I was inspired by the 2 words, you're fired. And I made a vow that I would do whatever it would take to make it on my own. He said, that's got to be in the book. And I said, what? And then he said, well, what was the first business lesson you ever learned? I said, oh, that's easy. I was 9 years old. My dad was a foreman at Honeywell, a defense contractor, and he bought a pickup truck. And on the weekends, he decided that we would haul rubbish, not garbage, rubbish. My mom put an ad in the newspaper, and she would take the calls. And on Saturdays, we'd have 5 or 8 places to go, and we'd clean out an attic or a garage, or if somebody, had a pile of stuff they needed to take to a landfill. My dad would, have sort of his estimate book. He'd look at the pile, he'd sort of size it up, and he'd give the person, the prospect, an estimate, and in most cases we got the job. But the lesson I learned was it's just as important to know what you will not do as it is to know what you will do. And Ross looked at me and he said, that's got to be in the book. I said, what are you talking about? That's just these little stories. He goes, that's what's going to make the difference. And then he said something that changed probably the course of my career as well. He said, start donating proceeds from your book or your books to some charitable cause. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, if you just write a book, you're going to be a one interview wonder. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, radio or television shows, or newspapers will interview you, and that'll all be great. But if they know that the proceeds of your books go to support a certain foundation of your choice, he said, they will bring you back again and again and again, because now it's part of a bigger picture. He said, just find something that you can donate to. And I took that idea and started my own foundation for entrepreneurs under 30. And to date, we've given 19 $3,000 grants. And sometimes people say, well, Mark, why 3,000? And that was the number I chose because a banker gave me $3,000 when I was 22. And I used it to launch my dream business and attend my first NSA, National Speakers Association convention in San Francisco. I think it was the first flight I had ever been on. And so in honor of him, I decided that my foundation, YES, or Young Entrepreneurs Succeed, would be in the business of giving $3,000 grants. And I'm today thrilled to say that I have achieved one of my foundation dreams. Henry, you don't even know this, but yesterday I opened an envelope and got a check for $3,000
Wow.
from someone who heard the story and had not only been inspired by the work that we were doing, but heard the story about my dream to give $3,000 grants. And I admitted in the story that I said, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. But I said, I'm not worried about it because the how always follows the want. And she overnighted a check for $3,000 and said, Mark, I want to help you reach that goal of 3,000. And in my mind, I'd always hoped that maybe a handful of people would step up to the plate and give me $3,000. She's not only the first one, and I certainly am not going to hold her to this, but she said, I plan to send you a check for a grant every year. So that's
Mark, this
cool.
is an interview, but not an ideas session, but may I share an idea with you?
Sure.
So my daughter, Carla, when she attended, NYU to get her PhD in art history, and in the summer, she was given $3,000 by a woman who said, I just want you to have some money to go travel and see art around the world. If you're going to teach about it, you should go see it. And Carla said, well, what's the stipulation, or what do I have to do? And just send me a letter about what you saw. So I think if we introduce some of these special entrepreneurs that you've helped to some people, we might get more of those $3,000 checks.
And I think you're right.
You can count on me for $3,001 checks over the course of the next 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, switching gears. One of our mottos at Indie Books is publishing the book is the starting line, not the finish line. Would you expand on that, please?
Well, so much effort and energy is expended into publishing a book. And in most cases, in the majority of cases, not much thought is given to what happens when the box of books arrive. And to your earlier comment about a book should lead to more $3,000 coaching engagements or $10,000 speeches. If it's not, then the author did something wrong. And so if we're not using it as a marketing tool, in fact, I'm the poster child for what can happen when you publish the right book and then use it in your, use it as the secret weapon. The right book is better than a website. It's better than a sizzle, video. It's better than a collateral printed folder with inserts in it. It's your best marketing tool. I think that's one of the reasons why you and I are so connected, is our philosophy and our approach as to what can happen when you write the right book. The challenge is, there's a lot of crappy books out there. And we've all seen them and been gifted crappy books, but worse. This is the sad part. And that is, there are a lot of good books written with the wrong title, the wrong subtitle, the wrong table of contents. And so a good book can be, masked and never get the author to where he or she wants to go. And then they will either never publish another book because their success was minimal to zero, or they will write another crappy book. And so the notion of surrounding yourself with the right book team, Henry, part of the reason I, and it might be, and you've heard me share this, my signature career achievement, of which there have been a number of notable achievements, but my career signature achievement is the publishing of my second book, Never Be the Same. But I bet the farm on that book. I had 2 copy editors, a developmental editor, and a Chicago Manual of Style editor on that book. I wrote it, but they massaged it and arranged it and storyboarded it, and it's a masterpiece, if I do say so myself.
Well, tell them what happened as a result of doing the book, the confidence you had when you were in a dogfight.
Oh, sure. I spent a year developing from the seed of the idea to write Never Be the Same from Ross Bernstein to book in hand was about 12 months. And I was scared. I was scared to death. And the truth is, my developmental editor, Terry Langhans, believed in the book on the days that I did not. She pulled me through that process like you pull so many people through those valleys. And she hung in there with me. But when the box came and I opened up the box, I knew, I mean, I get shivers just thinking about it. I don't share the story very often, but I knew my life had mattered. I knew that if God forbid something were to happen to me, that my life, my work, my legacy mattered. And about 2 weeks after that experience or that moment, I was up for and considered for a 6-figure speaking contract with JP Morgan Chase Bank. They wanted to put me or someone like me in 15 different cities in front of groups of averaging about 250 of their small to medium-sized business owner clients and prospects. So it was the proverbial tour around the United States. And my decision maker had led me to believe that it was mine, that they were going with me, but they had not made the final decision. And so I felt pretty confident. And at the last hour, in fact, I remember it, it was a Friday afternoon, about 3 o'clock, I was in Kelowna, British Columbia, on a long weekend personal trip. And I got an email about 3 o'clock that essentially said, well, you know, you're in a dogfight with another speaker. And I thought, dogfight? What the hell are you talking about, dogfight? That I'm the right speaker for this tour, not just because I want it and want the business or the contract or the money associated with it. I believed at my core that I was the right speaker for this assignment. And I shot off a short email, and I was fortunate enough that they were willing to tell me who I was in a dogfight with. No disrespect to the speaker. He's a veteran and a legend in the speaking industry, and I have the utmost respect for him. However, he built his career on speaking on leadership, management, marketing, and sales. He was an expert in nothing, a master of everything, or a master of nothing, really. But he had built a successful career behind multiple topics. And I'm the growing your business guy. And so I shot off a short email at about 4 o'clock on that Friday afternoon and just said, good afternoon, and my decision maker. And I said, thank you for your note. I understand that it's down to myself and another speaker, and he's amazing. And he has built a successful career speaking on multiple topics. My understanding is that you are looking for a business development speaker and someone with a deep well of experience and expertise. I am the right speaker for this assignment, period. And I actually think I wrote period. I spelled out the word period. If you have any doubt whatsoever, here are the names of 3 decision makers and their cell phone numbers. I have reached out to them, and they are on deck should you want to call them over the weekend, because you shared you're going to make your decision over the weekend and let us know on Monday morning. So please feel free to call these 3 and ask them the hard questions. And and once I hit send, on that email, Henry, I was at peace, because I thought, if I get it, I went the extra, I provided that extra ounce of conviction. If I don't get it, I certainly will have lost this opportunity to someone who is worthy of it, but at least I will have known that I sent that final email. If I had just not sent the email and wondered all weekend long, I still maybe would have gotten the gig or the contract on Monday morning. But I think here's the real heart of this message. Writing Never Be the Same was the catalyst for me writing that email. Had I not published Never Be the Same and had that in hand just 10 days earlier, I do not believe I would have had the confidence or the depth of conviction or the guts to write that email. And I think that not only put me over the edge, but I think in in a 51 to 49% vote, I won.
Mark, what a great story to end on. You know, they say the most lucrative writing in the world is ransom notes. I think that email was second. That finished a close second. It's done so much. Thank you for sharing this wisdom. One more question. Can we have you back and ask you more?
Oh, for sure.
Great. We're looking forward to it. Thanks, everybody, for listening today and being with us. We really want to encourage you that the world needs to hear your stories. Your stories matter. Please share them. People need them. Until next time, goodbye, and we'll see you on another Marketing with a Book podcast. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. Thank you, Henry.